Joining us now, John Adams. He is running for Attorney General of Virginia in 2017. He's a Republican. There are three candidates running for Attorney General: John Adams, Rob Bell, Chuck Smith. John Adams started out as a big underdog in this race. Rob Bell the chalk, but he's making strides and he's closing in. We expect this to be settled at a convention in 2017 in May in Charlottesville. That's what I'm predicting, but who knows what's going to happen until the state central decides. It's all conjecture. John Adams, welcome to the show, sir. Good to have you.
John, it is always good to be with you. You guys looking forward to a big night tonight, huh?
I think it's going to be one of the biggest nights in political speech-making history. As we said to you earlier, Trump expected to get a bigger audience than ever. Obviously, this is the biggest, 35 to 55 minutes he's going to have in his career. And a lot of this campaign is going to be defined on his speech this evening. So we assume he's going to stay off the airwaves today and practice it so that he delivers it on cue. But he's expected to lay out his agenda tonight in very bold terms, and we're going to be there watching it. John, I just got to ask you, I know you've been following this, and we've been dominated today by the Ted Cruz speech, and, many of us thought a lot of Cruz when this thing started, but I got to tell you, the number of people upset over the fact that he came to the party and then basically dissed Trump and the movement, there's a lot of people upset over this. You were watching it, John. What was your overall take?
Yeah, look, John, it sounds like maybe you and I are similar. I sort of ideologically am pretty close with Ted. We share some similar experiences. And I think I heard you say this earlier. I thought his speech was very good. I thought it was excellent. And then he didn't endorse. And what I don't understand, and I say this as I travel around the Commonwealth, is this is a binary choice. It is, you are either going to support our nominee, Donald Trump, or you are going to effectively support Hillary Clinton. And the danger here is the United States Supreme Court. And I just don't know how anyone who has conservative principles can put the court at risk. Because, as I've told people, I've had the honor of clerking at the Supreme Court for Clarence Thomas, and I've had the privilege of working at the White House for President George W. Bush. And the Supreme Court is eminently more powerful than the president. And if we lose this election, we are going to find ourselves in a terrible situation very quickly. Because with Justice Scalia's passing, with Justice Ginsburg being 83, Justice Breyer being 79, Justice Kennedy being 80, when the next president takes the oath of office, the court could change dramatically right before our eyes. And there's just too much at risk. I don't understand, how we can turn a blind eye to that. We are at a critical turning point for the country, and we've got to have conservative justices.
You're right, John. There's no question about it. And look, the speech was great. That's what I think was so bothersome to me. And when he said, vote your conscience, I was anticipating the next line, John. I expected him to say, vote your conscience. And it would be unconscionable to do anything to elect Hillary Clinton president. So we have one choice, and that's Donald Trump. Let's get him over the top. That's all he had to say. And then everybody's happy. He didn't say that, and you got to ask yourself why. He went back on his pledge. And look, a lot of these people, John, this is a movement. This is not about Donald Trump. This is why the media and all the pundits, John, have gotten this wrong from day one, except, and I'm going to keep saying it, I'm not shy about it, except me, who predicted this 15 months ago. Because this is not about Trump or some comment he made or a tweet he sent. It's not about this. It's about a movement. And those that don't understand what is going on in America and what this movement represents, they're going to get swept under by it. All this talk about...
John, when I'm out on the trail, I hear it all the time and I feel it. People feel absolutely abandoned by the government.
Right. No, you're absolutely correct. We're with John Adams. John Adams is running for Attorney General. He's a Republican. Rob Bell and Chuck Smith in the race. Adams had a great fundraising quarter that came out, so it's obvious he's going to have the money to be very competitive in this race. John, I want to get to, if I may, the fight on Tuesday trying to overturn Governor McAuliffe's edict of restoration of rights for over 200,000 felons, the Republicans saying this is just unconstitutional. Nobody knows constitutional law better than John Adams. What's your take, and how will it turn out?
Well, first of all, one of my biggest concerns going into the argument was about this procedural question of standing, which you may have heard us discuss. Mm-hmm. And at the argument, there were several justices who asked probing questions that indicated, now, I've been around courts a lot, and you can't ever predict an outcome based on what judges say. But there were a lot of questions from the justices that indicated they believe that the plaintiffs do have standing and that they will reach the merits of the case. So that's a good sign, John, because a lot of us had concern that they might try to duck the issue by saying the plaintiffs don't have standing, but hopefully that won't happen. On the merits, I would love to tell you, John, that it's an absolute slam-dunk case. It's not. There's a little bit of ambiguity in the text of the Virginia Constitution, and some conservative justices may find limiting a power of the executive branch. They may find they have a little trouble with that. If I had to guess, I think we have a victory for the petitioners, a victory for our side of 4-3 over a dissent. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I don't know. John, it's very difficult to predict what courts and judges are going to do. And, there's so many problems with what McAuliffe did. I think my audience knows, and I'm very sympathetic to the cause that McAuliffe is trying to put forward, which is, when somebody does their time, and I know maybe they haven't paid a fine and things like that, and I know everybody gets upset over that, but it's not as easy as that. I mean, you go to jail. I mean, you don't have any money. Your life's destroyed. You got a federal record. When you get out, we want to decrease recidivism. So you got to find a way to get people, give them a second chance or a third, whatever it is. Part of that is getting all your rights back so that you can start to lead a normal and productive life and not have to go back to prison.
And it's funny you say that, John. I mean, here's a couple things I always say when I'm out on the trail because I believe it. The governor's press release statement with the order, the first line said that he would restore the right. He was restoring the rights of over 200,000 Virginians who work, pay taxes, and raise their families in Virginia. Let me tell you something. I've said this time and time again because I share your view on this. When people commit crimes and they do their time and they get out, and as the governor's order said, they get back to work, they start raising their families, they start paying taxes, I would be the first person in line to give them their rights back. We are a society that believes in redemption. We're a society that believes in individual accountability, and when you stand up and you take care of yourself, you should get your rights back. I'm with you 100% on that. The problem, of course, is in this case, the way he did it, the governor doesn't know that about these 200,000 people. He has no way of knowing. Mm-hmm. And what kills me about this is another reason why people don't trust government anymore. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The governor is telling his political allies to get ready for this. And he's not even telling the people in his own government who are going to need to handle it. Mm-hmm. So you see someone putting politics above effectively governing. And this is what has things like this have people absolutely furious. And it's appropriately furious.
John, let me just ask you this. If you were Attorney General right now and we had, I don't know, either Ralph Northam governor or a Republican governor, and they came to you and said, look, I want to restore these rights. I want to give people the chance to vote. We got 200,000 disenfranchised people or so in Virginia. John, what do you suggest that we do in order to expedite this as quickly as we can? Because we think it's the right thing to do. What would your answer be?
I think what you have to do is figure out a way to make an efficient process, but a process where you can at least assess the individual and their status. You need to know. You need to know whether they have paid their fines back. You need to know. Take this as an example I've used out on the trail. Do you want to restore the rights to a person who committed a felony, did their time, came out, but they are way behind on their child support, and they are not behaving properly with a spouse. There is for example, a protective order in place. I mean, you have to at least do an assessment to determine if the person has re-engaged in society and is truly rehabilitated. You have to do it. So you can do it in an efficient way, but you got to come up with an efficient process for individualized review.
Right, and right now that doesn't exist, right? I mean, that's really what the issue is, because
so there's a process, but it's not efficient enough to move people through the system.
Right. So I mean, you'd have to evaluate everyone, and so you got 200,000, you'll never get there. Well, there's got to be an answer to this, and I'm opposed to not getting rights back because somebody has fines to pay or they're behind on child support. I mean, it's just not that easy, John. I mean, if you go to jail for whatever reason, I mean, you're going to get behind on everything. Then you get out, you can't get a job, or you're a minimum wage job. You know, you're living out of your car or in some room, and now you got all this stuff you got to pay. You can't get there. And so this takes a very long time, but we can have that discussion at another time. We're with John Adams, running for Attorney General in Virginia. He's a Republican. He's coming from nowhere in order to give Rob Bell what we think is going to be the race of his lifetime. Tell me, John, about your race for Attorney General. How do you win this thing in a convention, knowing that, you know, Rob Bell's been out there, John, for a very long time. He's got a lot of backers. He's going to bring a lot of people to Charlottesville. He's works 90,000 hours a week or something. How do you beat Rob Bell at a convention?
I'm so glad you asked that question, John. First of all, as I tell everybody, Rob and I spend a lot of time together out on the trail, and he's a fine guy. But I'm different than Rob, and there's two things that I think you have to watch, John. First, you mentioned it earlier. We didn't have a good fundraising period. We had a record-setting fundraising period. In fact, we destroyed the former record, which was set for this period by Bob McDonnell back in the early 2000s. We raised $433,000. John, I'm not a politician. I've never sought office before. What does it tell you that I was able to raise that money? It tells you there is energy out there to elect someone, to nominate someone in the Republican Party who can beat Mark Herring. There is serious energy, and as people are looking at the race, what they're realizing is that the Adams campaign is the campaign that can beat Herring. And so we shattered fundraising records. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and again, all due respect to Rob, look, everybody says Rob's the hardest working person in the Republican Party. That's wonderful. Pay attention to what we're doing. We're everywhere. I actually didn't watch the speech last night. I listened to it on the radio coming back from Rockingham. Tonight I'm going down to your neck of the woods, down in Chesapeake. We're going to do 12 events in the 7-day period we're in right now. We're going to do 12 events. So how do you win? For someone who's not a politician, you got to get out there. You got to meet the people. You got to meet them face to face. You got to look them in the eye. You got to tell them what you believe, and that's what we're doing. And I agree with you, John. That's why we're going to run the race of a lifetime here, and we are already. I think the fundraising numbers and the amount of effort we've put into it, it's creating serious and tangible results. People want to win, John. They want to beat Mark Herring. What he has done to us is unconscionable. He is our lawyer, and people want to feel like their government looks out for them, and I can do something about it because I can beat Mark Herring, and I can get into that Attorney General's office and actually represent the people of Virginia, defend the laws they pass, and defend them from overreach out of Washington.
Well, John Adams, I can tell you this. I've got Rob Bell as the favorite, or the chalk, if you will. But you look at your fundraising report and what you're doing, you got a heck of a shot in this race. It would certainly be an upset, but I think you're closing every day. I think this is going to be a very, very competitive race. Whether it's a convention or a primary, we're going to find that out in about a month, I understand, when the state central decides what to do. I want to thank John Adams for being with us, giving his insight, running for Attorney General, closing in on Rob Bell every day. John, what's your website?
Yeah, the best website is johnadams4forva.com. And if you go there, you can link over to our Facebook page. And I would ask all your viewers, please go onto our Facebook page, like it, share it with your friends, look at all the places we've been, look at all the work we're doing. Reach out to us. We'd love to come and get to know you in person. And you guys have a wonderful day.